What's up, y'all? This is Rom coming back at you with yet another car video. A woman's ideal male body type is influenced by her race, class, and culture. A woman's ideal body type. And it could have made it even longer. They only let you have so many letters in your title, spaces in your title. But in culture, I would even say nation. And I was inspired to do this. A young man on the video said something, because I said something about women liking rough faces and stuff, masculine men, and somebody said something. Well, what he sees is these hot women going for feminine looking men. So whenever somebody says something like that, I usually say, well, where you at? What street you in? And dude says he's in the UK. Now, I can't argue. I ain't been to the UK. I don't know. But I know like in the areas I've been in, primarily the East Coast, and of course I visited California and Atlanta in the South. You look too feminine, they call you gay. Let's just be real with this shit. Let's just be real. Even how, depending on the community, like in a black community, if they say pretty boy, that just means you got light skin and like a different grade of hair. But you still don't look too feminine. And now this ain't to say there ain't some women who get with them, but those are usually women who kind of masculine. You're talking about the hot feminine women. Nah, they want, in this region, in this general culture, they want, that rough looking dude. But, I don't know. It's different. And the reality is there's no universal body type. Now I say, get some muscles on, but what do I also say? I say, get your best body and then see your tribe. Even this argument over passport brothers and stuff, sometimes the woman who wants you might be in another culture. Because like I said, I've dealt with a lot of women from the Caribbean. I've dealt with a lot of women from, if they got a Caribbean background, I'm like, yeah, girl. Seriously, I can think of one Caribbean woman. She was from Jamaica and stuff. She wasn't feeling her brother. Yeah, but 3 of her Jamaican friends were. And, and that's one of the things, people got to realize. See, one issue I have, because, you get some guys there talk about what you have to have as a body. They say, yeah, it's like not just a body, but just overall physically. Like they'll say, yeah, you got to have like long hair, or you got to have hair. But culturally, like in the black community, and really where I live, which is predominantly white, you got a lot of guys with shaved heads and beards. So that's a cultural thing. So you can't say, oh, you got to have hair, you bald. You're going, no, depends on where you at. Depends on where you're at. Also the social environment, racial background. Because like I say, bald and beard is big. And like I said, even with where I'm at, you get a lot of white guys. And they got some size. They ain't slim either. But that's a big deal. That's a big deal, but it's a cultural thing. It's a regional thing. It's different even in regions and stuff. One region you might have to be that fashion model build. Another region you might have to be stocky. It's globally. I remember a woman on one of the channels when I was talking about this. She was talking about, she likes slimmer East African men, but she also likes stockier West African men. Because one of the things, and you get some people, they want to think, oh, well, this type is universal. Well, have you been to these other places to say that it is? Or have you talked with the women or what they like? Like I remember one time there was I wonder if I can find that site. I'm going to try to find that site. Well, I'll tell you about it, because I had linked a site before showing some male body types and got a warning because of it. And somebody else like that shit don't have nothing to do with pornography. So y'all gotta find some stuff. But anyway, there was this site and it was showing all these bodies and how women responded to each. But it was all white guys. It was all white guys. Like this the ideal. But some dude, and it was on another message board, and he shared. I think it was United Players of America, Tariq Nasheed's site, that it was shared. I think, and and you got the percentages of what the women liked and everything. But this dude said he showed it to some sisters, and they were like, "Where's Thor?" My sister's like a bigger man. And that's also kind of an American thing anyway. That's an American thing, because I'm going to get into that why I say that. Because if you look at what Americans in general like, got to be kind of bigger and everything. In fact, one link I think it's safe to share. It was from businessinsider.com, and it was about ideal male body types from around the world. They weren't all the same. And because some of the ideal types would be called slimmer here, either slim or fat here, or fatter. So it's all different. And see, that's another thing. I said I was going to get into that whole American European thing. See, a lot of times, I'm starting to notice, you get some people saying, well, you got to look like this, or you got to be this height, but sometimes that's not coming from an American perspective. Like even a 6 foot thing. Yeah, women like tall men, but the average height in America is 5'9". It's 5'9". So if you 5'10", you're actually taller than average here. So you got to say, okay, what region you in? Where you at? How they do? There was a detractor. I remember, because it was on a Lucario thing. It was a detractor who identified himself as being in Europe. Had an issue with me saying women love shoes. Women suck your dick off for shoes. I remember seeing that. I read that shit. And Lucario corrected him. But at the same time, a cultural thing. I don't know what it is in Europe. But here, let me see some. Yeah, I had to. Let me go this way. I don't know what it is in Europe, but here, shit, your style means a lot. Even and not even just the body type. Not even just the body type. Like if we go on racial thing, because on the real, because when I talk in general. I talk in general because I got people all over the world. My stuff isn't strictly focused on the black community, even though a lot of guys think I am. But unless I say strictly black community, I got guys, and I've had clients shoot from all over Africa. I got guys. I got a young man, shout out Denzel. He used that as a screen name, but he's from Zimbabwe. Shout him out. Powerful young man, going to be the president of Zimbabwe one day. Got guys from Kenya and all of that. Serbia, Albania, Switzerland. So it's like, I speak in general terms, but if we're going to talk about the class, cultural, racial thing, let's just be real. If we talk strictly black community, oh yeah, the bodies are definitely being checked out and shit, but you gotta have a certain amount of swag. If you're dealing with the women in the community, you gotta have a certain amount of swag. And it's like that charisma, how you talk, basically generally charisma, but how you talk, how you dress and all of that makes a big difference. Indeed, a lot of guys who don't want to deal, have issues with black women, it's more about the swag thing. There ain't no shame in it. It is what it is. But then you deal with some other communities. Well, it's going to be like more about your social position or something. Like say you're dealing with the more upper middle class, upper class white culture in the United States. It's going to be a certain amount of status, like what's your educational background, all of that. Even in the black community, see, let me just go into that, because like I said, I don't strictly talk about the black community, but you get a lot of guys saying, oh, these sisters this, these sisters that, but I question, have they dealt with any professionals? Because if you deal with in professional environments, you got a degree, all of that, like a degree, you might be affiliated with a frat or something. Oh, the status thing plays a big part. You know, where you went to school, everything. Like if, never forget when I went to this party and it was mostly like, frat people, frat brothers and sisters, bougie. Anybody black know what that means? And we were playing Negro geography. Negro geography is, okay, where you go to school, who you know, all that stuff. But that was part of the more cultural thing. Oh, incidentally, real quick. Let me just say something real quick. Somebody, and they were saying it in a, they were saying it just as an illustration, but, because they had said, oh, yeah, they did a lot of AKAs and stuff, At least two of the pics, at least multiple pics with two different women on my IG, AKA women. Also, I can prove it in court of law because my son's mother, AKA. And even that's different. That's different, though. But it's going to be different, like what they look at. Like going beyond that, going beyond the black community. There's always some different nuance. And even with body game, like what body build is ideal. Like let's use that American, European example again. Like a show I'm watching now on Netflix, Diary of a Gigolo. I think is out of Spain. And, these gigolos, they got the bite, but they real slim. And I was looking at them, and you compare that to another show they had. It was that show and Toy Boy. Now, the guys are more slimmer and everything and stuff, and the women going crazy. And that's cool because that's the culture, that's the ethnic background, that's the race, everything. Because I'm going to get into... a deeper aspect of the imprint in a second. The first imprint. I'm gonna get into that in a second. But so the guys on that show are slimmer, right? But then if you watch a show that was based in the black culture, specifically black culture, on BET, All the Queen's Men. These dudes were like bigger, These dudes were bigger. And not even like over 6 feet. It's like you had a couple of them, like Bolo, he's 5'9", but women go crazy over him in the real world. 5'9", football looking motherfucker. Another little bit shorter than him, women going crazy. Big old dude. But that's the cultural thing. That's the thing, and and it's deep. It's deep because you got the the racial background, the cultural nuances, like that whole thing with swag, specifically in the black community, or status with upper middle class whites. That's culture. That's culture right there. It's affecting it, Because a lot, and I've said this before, if you look at relationships, it's biology filtered by culture. So it's a combination of all of it. But then that biology part, you can't ignore that. Like the first imprint really isn't for either a man or woman, isn't dealing with the opposite sex. And I talked about this when I got deep into the imprint on an on-demand video. I'll share that. The first imprint is really DNA. The first imprint is DNA. And then whatever your opposite sex family members look like. That's the first imprint because that's what you look for first. Like women, they have a certain like ideal pattern within their DNA, what they want to look for. If you want to use Carl Jung when he talks about the anima or the animus, whatever. It's like if you get a woman and she's slimmer, but the men on her father's side, biological father's side, are slimmer. She's going to have an initial attraction to that unless she consciously goes against that because, some issues with the father. But she's going to naturally find that type, whatever type her biological father is. She's going to naturally find them more attractive. Same thing with men, That's where sometimes you get that talk about an Oedipus complex, And I forgot or Oedipus, or I think electric complex and stuff. I hadn't talked about it in a while, but you get that general thing. Basically, you want someone like your opposite sex parent, unless you consciously don't like them, and then you consciously go away from that. But that's the first imprint. So that's going to affect it as well, and that's not universal either. That's why sometimes somebody thinks somebody is universal, but they really not. They really not on a physical thing. It depends. And then when you talk about ethnic groups, like the thing with ethnic groups, and that, because you'll get them, they all have a certain look. Like when you see, like I can look at someone and get a general idea if they have an Irish background. Or you can look at somebody and maybe like a Southern European, like a Sicilian, Italiano background, or Ethiopian, or Yoruba, or Khan, something like that. Because the origin of ethnic groups, they really just expanded family groups. If you start doing some digging, you'll find that any ethnic group, the people, they probably have a common female ancestor going back several centuries. In fact, somebody I read something about the am I pronouncing it right? A certain Jewish the Ashkenazi, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Jews. He said they really originated from the wombs of 4 women. So, but that makes a difference as to what the women will want, and what the men will want too. What the men will want. Because I know certain body builds turn me on, but then I look at the women in my family, and I was like, oh, damn, they the same. Just drive you crazy and stuff. And that's DNA. That's DNA. And then from the biology, that's really where culture really comes from anyway. But that gets into a deeper conversation. I had to sit in front of the bookcase and put the glasses on, become Professor Rom. But the bottom line is this. There's always going to be differences. Like, the most I can talk is in generalities. Like, that's why I would say get your best body. No matter, seriously, get your best body. That's why you can't really even, honestly, I would say for a man, the biggest thing, the most common thing is keep the stomach under control. Like, you can have a little bit of stomach, just don't have it lapping over your belt. Don't look pregnant. But in general, you might have a little bit. Like in many third world countries, if you got, you got some meat on you, that turns the woman on. Because subconsciously, it's like, oh, wow, he can feed himself. He's healthy, And that's more the cultural thing and partly biological. Like, if you look in, again, you get some people promoting, they saying, well, you got to have this certain body fat percentage. Oh, have you seen those Polynesians? Those Samoans? Shoot. They got some meat on them. And they good with it. It's just different. So, the thing is, if you understand that, then you just say, okay, I'm not going to focus too much on looking like that other person. I was like, look your best and then see who likes it. Look your best and just work with what you got. Like at my gym, there's a young man. I've seen him around a couple times. He always wears a mask, but he looks Polynesian. So, but he's big dude, diesel and stuff. but you can see his stuff is tight but still big. Like you get some people thinking, oh well, you got to be all slim and all that. And no, maybe that's for your racial group and your cultural group, but it depends on where you at. And indeed, that's why I say that gets into the tribe. That gets into the tribe, because then you gotta see, okay, which women feeling you the most, you know, which women feeling you the most. I can look at a woman, and like the women, well, it's weird. I get a lot of attention from some slimmer women, but when I see that thick woman, and when I say thick, I mean shapely, but like body kind of tight. There's always a look, there's an interest from them. But then if I see the family members, I was like, oh, okay, you know. And of course they get interest from me, because I said, you know, the women in my family had certain body build, certain look and everything. And, you know, the point is just work on being your best. And even more so than that, no matter what we say, and I've said this several times, it's going to go on, and I've said this several times, I'm going to a little bit different place with this. I've said this several times. You have to fight. You have to go out. You got to figure out what works for you. You know? Don't get caught up. Like, we can say whatever. No matter what I say, I don't care what I say. Go check it out for yourself. Seriously. No matter what I say, I don't care what comes out of my mouth. Check it out for yourself, because you got to say, okay, you got to take in consideration, okay, where you live at, what they do in your specific area, what they checking for, what they do in your social class, what they do in your racial group. Because even with all the interracial dating now, people still going to have the strongest attraction to a similar race. And there's nothing wrong. It's not racist or anything. It just is what it is, you know? So you got to say, okay, what's working, you know? Like I said, sometimes you might have to travel, sometimes you might have to move, you know? You might have to develop, get into the cultural thing. Because let me use the class example. You might want women of a certain class, but you need to know the nuances of that class and how they're carrying themselves. You know? You might have to, like, get those tats removed or not even have them. Because, let me use that, and that's a great example, because I've seen some content creators talk about, get those tats, the women that like them. It depends on the class. If you're dealing with certain lower classes, yeah, but then upper classes, not as much. And I know some people came on and said, well, I've seen them with tats, but you want to see them with those full sleeves and everything, or blatant, or neck tattoos. Because trust me, you go in some jobs, especially in some professional environments like that, in the interview, they're going to be like, they just going to look at you. And it's just a reality. It's just a reality. Like, if you got them, you better hide them well. And stuff. And even then, I can probably guarantee, I ain't gonna guarantee, but it's likely, I say strongly likely, somebody say, well, they got them, haven't been around a real upper class environments. In fact, that is a totally different vibe. It's a totally different vibe. And I know y'all see me just chilling, but I've been through them all. Like, if you're in an upper class environment, upper middle class to upper class environment, it's totally different how you got to even present yourself, you know? And you do got to, one thing, you do got to be in decent shape, you know? You do got to be in decent shape. It just is, you know? Regardless of your frame, you got to be in decent shape. And you got to have a certain clean-cut look. Because even when they partying, they still conducting business. So, and that's just a reality. That's just a reality. You know? So, you know, the thing for everyone to do, you got to get out there and see what works where you at. What body, you got to pay attention. Okay, what type of, just pay attention to. Like, if you built a certain way. Okay, which women paying attention to you? And why? You know? Why? And there's a lot more to that. It's a lot more to that, you know? Because, like, I'll use an interracial example. Like, where I live, there's a whole lot of white women want to get with a brother. It's predominantly white, but you find out who they sneaking around with. But that's something too. That's something too, you know? That's something too. So you gotta really check out stuff, but understand it's a different dynamic. And then when they get with the brother, it's a lot of it's fantasy, let's just be real. So, you know, want to get out that fantasy out their system. But that's a whole other conversation. Be messing some people's heads up. But yeah, you gotta look at all of those factors, you know, and just ultimately the only thing you can do is just be your best. Be your best and see where you're at. You know who you are, and then know who fits into your plan, and and then where they're going to be at. Where they're going to be at. So anyway, though, that's all I got for today. I get back with y'all. Peace and blessing.